RE/MAX of Texas when I worked there, and I organized it, and I arranged the criteria that would favor me to win. Basically, it was just raw number of pounds lost. Okay, well, I was starting with a whole bunch of pounds. So, everybody had to put in $5 a week for 10 weeks. So everybody had contributed $50, and then we had the pot arranged between first, second, and third place. I was in second place the entire 10 weeks until the weekend before the final weigh-in on Monday, and I got deathly sick. I don't know if it was food poisoning or what, and I lost like 8 pounds that weekend and won. And the guy who'd led the entire way, Al Leisner, if you all know Al, he was just sick. He could not believe that I pulled ahead, because he was like 6 pounds ahead of me going into the last weekend. And sure enough.
Sorry that you.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't. I had a use for that. I won $400, and I used that to buy a canoe, which I wanted so that my son and daughter-in-law could go canoeing with me, because I had a solo, so it worked out beautifully. So, all right, so welcome to Listing Objections. Just a couple disclaimers before we start. This is not necessarily a fun class to teach. And that's because it's just page after page of dialogue. Okay, I'm going to be reading scripts to you. So it's kind of boring from that perspective, and be challenging for you as the students as we work through this one. So why would I inflict this pain on you? Because I think it's necessary. This is a key class in accelerating your progress as a professional top producing agent and dramatically increasing your conversion rates. Y'all have heard me say many times that one of the key distinctions between an average agent and a top producing agent is that top producing agents know what to say. When a buyer or seller raises a stall or an objection or tries to get you to cut your commission, do you know what to say? Have you pre-formulated a response to the objections that you are likely to hear in common real estate scenarios so that it just rolls off your tongue with confidence? If you can do that, you're going to get more listings, you're going to convert more buyers, and you're going to protect your commissions at a higher level. That's exactly what this class enables you to do. Okay? So it's painful, but necessary. All right? So let's go ahead and dive in. Listing objections. I'm on page 3. We are on a never-ending quest to move away from typical. We don't want to be typical. A typical agent does not have a good life, does not make much money, does not have much time to enjoy it. And so this class is working off 4 assumptions. First of all, you want to substantially increase your listing inventory. By the way, is that a true statement of you? You want to substantially increase. Let's take a quick poll. Thomas, how many listings have you got?
3.
3. Fantastic. Anybody else? Volunteers?
And hopefully you sell it for me, because
Hopefully I sell it.
I'm about to go live tomorrow on that one.
Okay. Anybody else got more than 3? Okay. So we do want to substantially increase our listing inventory. I think that's a fair statement. 2, you want to master effective proven dialogue. At least you showed up to expose yourself to it. You want to differentiate yourself from typical because you want untypical results. And key, you're going to study and practice to maximize your production. In other words, just by exposing yourself to these scripts and dialogues today, you're not going to have mastered them. You're just going to have heard them. But if you really want to internalize this, you're going to have to go study and practice with the material. Okay? Truth. Typical agents work on overcoming objections. Successful consultants, which is how we perceive our role, work on preventing objections. And we do that in how we set up the conversation and lead the conversation. A lot of that was covered in our listing conversion class, which we went through just a couple weeks ago. This objections course is a follow-up to that class. It presumes that you understand the basic listing conversion strategy that we teach, and now this just goes a layer deeper on that strategy. Okay. An ounce of prevention. People will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. In other words, we do not want you walking into a listing conversation ready to make assertions or claims that you cannot back up. Everything that you assert in regard to your marketing program or a recommended pricing strategy should be supported. You should be able to logically explain it, but then tangibly demonstrate that, tangible meaning paper, touchable, so that they can see exactly what you're talking about. So, to prevent listing objections, questions, and concerns, you must, first of all, allow sellers to self-discover. Don't come in and tell them what you're going to do or what they need to do. In a conversational style, they're going to have several aha moments. We need to price our home here if our top objectives in the transaction are going to be met. I need to be working with you if this is going to be a win-win relationship. You're not telling them that, they're self-discovering that. You need to move beyond opinion. Hey, back up what you say with facts. Be tangible. Become a strategist. Be logical. Show them that you understand the real estate transaction from start to finish. I did some brainstorming yesterday on what a productive agent's value proposition should be to buyers and sellers, and came up with kind of 3 key points that basically you're providing expertise in 3 areas. One is the transaction. You understand the documents, the process, the closing procedures that are necessary to transfer ownership. You are a master of the transaction process. Secondly, you're a master of the geography of the local market area. You have hyper-local expertise in the areas where you are representing buyers and sellers. You know what's going on. You understand values. And then finally, you're providing expertise in the areas of negotiations, because that's often where deals break apart. Emotions get involved. Sellers or buyers get unreasonable, or they get their feelings hurt. And so you have committed to mastery in managing that relationship, primarily with the cooperating agent and then with your client, to keep emotions under control and everybody focused on the win-win of closing the transaction. That's what it means to be a strategist. Okay, you're not just trying to figure this out as you go along. You understand the end from the beginning. That's what consumers want. You track your results so that you're accountable to yourself. And tracking results means you understand how many attempts you have to make to set a meeting, in this case with a seller, how many meetings you have to set to have a certain number of meetings actually occur, because sometimes they fall apart, how many meetings that you have to actually have in order to take the listing, how many listings you actually have to take in order to get to the closing table. Those are called performance standards. And understanding your conversion ratios at each level, at each performance standard, is what puts you in complete control of your business. So that you can say on January 1st, or what is today, April, who knows the date? 22nd? On April 22nd, I can tell you exactly how many deals I'm going to close between now and the end of the year. How can I do that? Because I know my conversion rates. And if I know my conversion rates, I can regulate the amount of input on the front end to get the desired result on the back end. Okay? That's what being accountable to yourself means. Improving your results. Being intentional about mastering material, scripts, dialogues, strategies, so that over time your conversion rates within those performance standards get better. You set more appointments keep. When you have an appointment, more list with you. When you take listings, more sell, on a continual path of progression. And then you cause results. You cause homes to sell. Why should a seller list with you? Because you know what causes homes to sell. You're a master of that process. And by the way, those of you who attended the listing conversion class, what are the 2 factors that cause homes to sell? Price and time is an issue for sellers. Money and time are typically their top 2 issues. But what causes the home to sell? Exposure and price. price and exposure, or price and marketing. The very fact that you understand that separates you from the pack of typical agents. That you know if you price it right and expose it right, the house will sell. You're going to cause it to sell. Okay? So our goal by mastering these issues, being a leader, being tangible, logical, accountable, intentional, and proactive, you're not going to get many objections. You're going to eliminate them before they come up. You're going to have such confidence in your appointment setting dialogue and your kitchen table dialogue that they're going to understand intuitively. They're going to self-discover the fact that they're going to be in great hands with you. Okay? So before we actually get into dialogue, let's talk about the dispositions that are professionally attractive to sellers. And how many of y'all actually have a copy of this in front of you, a paper copy? Okay, okay, several of you. Okay, that's fantastic. So what I want to ask you to do, as we go down this list, is to circle where you fall on the disposition range. So, for example, a disposition that's professionally attractive is to be confident. The opposite is to be timid. Which one describes you most of the time when dealing with sellers? Confident or timid? Circle 1. Likable or incompatible? Circle 1. And go with your gut. And we're not going to have you share the results, so feel free to be honest. Approachable or withdrawn? Open to suggestion or closed to suggestion? Do you give the appearance of being organized or not? You walk in with papers falling out. Where's that pen? I know I brought a calculator. Let me run back to the car, okay? That kind of thing. Structured or chaotic? Structured meaning in the conversation, you are guiding it because you know the key milestones you must accomplish in the conversation to get to the desired result. Or are you just reacting? Spontaneous. Letting them take the lead. Are you aware? Aware of your surroundings, aware of the condition of the property, aware of the market conditions in that neighborhood, aware of the feelings and interpersonal dynamics going on at the table, or not. Genuine or phony? Nobody wants to describe themselves as phony. But think about this. When you're in conversation, are you truly listening? Or as they're talking, are you formulating what you're going to say next? That's a person who's phony, because you really don't care about, you're just trying to drive your agenda. Proactive or reactive? Are you in charge of the process or just reacting to it? Logical or unreasonable? Focused or scattered? In your conversation, are they discovering you to be unique, or do you sound like every other agent they've ever dealt with? Typical. Are you honest? Brutally honest? Sometimes very riskily honest in telling them the truth? Or are you misleading? Yeah, I can get you that. Yeah, we can get 220 when you know 205 is market. And probably telling yourself, well, I'll come back, I'll get them real. They just need to experience this market, and then but for now we'll say 220. Are you passionate or indifferent? Okay, passionate does not mean intense, where you're kind of worked up, but it does mean there's a natural enthusiasm that flows from you when you're talking about real estate needs. You chose this profession because you love helping people, and I know I can help you. I'm here to offer my services to help you. That genuine enthusiasm or passion will come through. All right, so did you rate yourselves?
I don't know how to rate yourself on it.
Did you have any circles in the opposite column?
No.
Anybody?
I had semicircles.
Semicircles. So you're not going to be there all the time, but sometimes you see those traits? Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm probably less self-aware than I should be, because I, kind of like Thomas, I kind of ended up on the positive side, and yet I don't get every listing. So I probably need a self-awareness course. In my own neighborhood, which I dominate, a seller that I have been working with to prepare their home for listing. A client of, no, I'm their client. This guy mows my lawns. He runs a lawn service. I've been his client for 2 years. I noticed a RE/MAX yard sign went up in his yard a couple days ago and it wasn't mine. I dropped the ball somewhere. I wasn't professionally attractive enough, apparently, to get that listing when I thought it was in my pocket already. So I'm doing some little self-analysis here. Where did I drop the ball? Where did they not find me to be confident to sell their home? Okay? So this is just something to work on. And I would, particularly when you don't get the listing or don't get the at-bat, you don't get the appointment when you asked for it, it's probably going to fall somewhere on this list, where the ball was dropped. Okay, pricing objections. Let's start to get into it. Pricing objections are by far the most common form of listing objection. Would you agree with that? Right? Sellers want more for their home than what it's worth. They want to start high, leave negotiating room. Hey, you never know. Maybe some oblivious California buyer will come in and doesn't understand market values. I mean, they just, they're looking to maximize their net. Most sellers feel their home is worth more than it actually is and have a hard time justifying their price beyond, well, it's what I need or what I want or what I paid. And sometimes seller price rationale is completely irrational. One of my first listing conversations was with a seller who his driving motivation was to feel that and to prove to himself that he did not overpay for the house when he bought it. And the way he was going to prove that to himself was selling it for a high price now, even if the market did not justify it. Okay? You need to know that if that's the situation that you're in. Since a seller's perception is indeed his or her reality, you must keep 5 rules in mind when addressing price objections. Number 1, stay curious. When you hear something strange that doesn't make sense, why would you want to do that? You want to stay curious and ask questions. Don't just immediately, if they say they want a price high, don't just immediately presume that you know why they want a price high. Because it might be a strange scenario like the one I just described, where it really had nothing to do with the money, but about the ego of proving that he had not overpaid. 2, stay away from arrogance. Because you are the expert, you just don't want to come off like that, like you know you're the expert. Okay, so remain likable, remain humble, stay curious. 3rd, stay calm. Keep your emotions out. And I know that's difficult sometimes. I was talking to a seller probably 2 or 3 weeks ago on the phone, and I finally hung up and I said, wow, I almost lost it. And my wife said, I could tell. You were pretty intense there, okay? I immediately chalked that up to myself as a learning lesson. That was a failure on my part. I should never have gotten emotional because the seller was wrong and I was right, and I knew that. Okay? But I allowed my emotions to take over. We don't want to the extent that we allow that to happen, we're going to be less effective. 4, stay logical. Neutralize their emotions. Because people are emotional. And sellers, more so even than buyers typically. Okay? Because they're under typically a lot of pressure when they're selling. So you just want to stay logical. And when they're up here, you're going to come back with facts, you're going to come back with figures, come back with information, with tangible evidence to back up what you're saying, and then stay proactive. All that means is you need to know when the deal doesn't make sense for you. You need to know when a win-lose relationship is being created. You need to know your walk-away price. This is on a pricing objection. You need to know, okay, here's the market. Here's the range of what's reasonable, even above market, but there is a realm of the ridiculous. And you need to know that you're not going to go there. You need to know that before you go in. Okay? And you're going to see where that shows up in the dialogue. Okay? Truth. Talk is cheap. Taking overpriced listings behaviorally communicates a dangerous message. If you take an overpriced listing, what have you behaviorally communicated to the seller?
That you can sell it for what they're.
That's right. I can sell this house. Even if you said it's overpriced. Even if you said at the kitchen table, nobody's going to pay that price for this house in this market. If you then take the listing at that price, behaviorally you've said, yeah, but I think I can do it. Behaviorally. And that's not true. So make sure that your walk lines up with your talk and that you are willing to walk away if they're not willing to be reasonable. Okay, pricing beliefs, getting our head right before we get our hands and feet into the game. Here's a list of the key beliefs you must possess as a pricing specialist. Pricing homes is not an exact science. Why is that true, by the way? Why can't we not just punch out numbers on a calculator and bingo, there's the market value? What's that? That's part of it right there. Every house is unique. Even if it's the exact same floor plan, same materials, same builder, same year built, they've been treated differently over the years, haven't they? They're on different lots. Corner lot, interior lot. One's got a single story behind, one's got a two-story behind. Every home is unique. So pricing is both science and art. There's always going to be a subjective factor to it. And by the way, that enters into my dialogue with sellers a lot. When some homes, it's just really difficult to nail down market value, lack of comps, unique property, that type thing. And I'll sometimes say to them, it's art and science. We've looked at the science, it's guided us, the numbers, to a general range, but it's a pretty broad range. So now a lot of subjectivity enters into this, and we could get it wrong. So the market is actually going to tell us what the value is. So if we come in, if we get it wrong, if we come in too high, and we'll know that by lack of showings or lots of showings and no offers, then we need to be prepared to move quickly to adjust. Okay? Informed people make intelligent decisions. That's your role as the consultant, is to inform them. You're the expert. You provide the logical, tangible evidence that enables them to make an informed decision. Homes sell for two reasons. They are price and exposure. Sellers determine price, not you. You are the consultant. The seller is in what role? The decision maker. You just advise, they choose. Buyers determine value, not sellers. Sellers determine price. Buyers determine the value of the home in the marketplace, not sellers. Price should never exceed value. Now that seems very obvious, but that is violated 90% of the time. With 90% of the listings on the MLS violate that core belief right there. Are they selling for list price? Houston average is about 98%. Most homes are not selling for list price. They're negotiating down 1, 2, 3%. So what that tells us is the listing price exceeded market value. And we know by experience that when price cuts have to be made, there is a momentum behind that that will often drive the sale price of a home below market value. So we're serving our clients at a high level when they learn that price should never exceed value. And we're going to get deeper into that. You'll see it in the dialogue. I'm not going to take time to go through all the rest of these, but I hope just by going through these first 4 or 5, you get the sense that these are important. And you have to internalize these beliefs if you're going to appropriately guide your clients. So I would encourage you to take the time to work through those. Make sure that you understand them. In fact, take a moment now and look through the list, and if there are any that don't make sense, I'll address them, just so that you're not confused by them. Let me read them out loud, because I know you don't all have the list. Buyers seldom pay more than fair market value. Competition determines price entry point. The pricing game is all about justification. An effective pricing strategy supports win-win working relationships. There's a difference between taking listings and selling listings. There are opportunity costs associated with taking overpriced listings. People have lived before you, meaning we can learn from others' experience. That's what that one means. Pricing homes is neighborhood or area specific. Tangible tools trump all opinions. People will trust and follow what you can logically and tangibly explain. It's unacceptable to leave the seller's money on the table. What's put in motion stays in motion. Do any of those not make sense in relationship to the seller conversation?
What do you mean by it's unacceptable to leave this seller's money on the table?
Yeah, what that means is our commitment as their consultant is to maximize their net out of the transaction. So if we advise them in a way that leads them to make a decision that costs them money, they should have gotten $25,000 out of the transaction, they only got $20,000, $5,000 of their money was left on the table instead of going in their pocket, that should be unacceptable to us. That's what that means.
I wonder about these tangible tools trump all opinions.
Yes, a tangible tool is comps. Here are the comps for this neighborhood so you can see where I'm getting my value consultation, as opposed to, you know what, houses in this area are selling about 170. That's an opinion. If you can show them the numbers, that's power. Okay? Any others in there? All right, let's rock and roll. We're on page 8. The initial pricing objection. So the pricing game is all about justification. When we say that, here's what we mean. When we list a home, we need to be able to justify the list price. We need to be able to defend that list price with logical and tangible tools. This is how we came up with this price. If we cannot defend it, then we have lost leverage in negotiations. And that's when the momentum ball starts to drop. Okay? And it's hard to stop in what goes in motion. So here's the conversation piece. So based on all information available, we're saying this to the sellers. At what price do you think we should enter the market? This presumes we've had our our pricing conversation. We've looked at the expireds, the rejected properties. We have looked at the actives, the current competition, and we have looked at the solds, the successful sellers. After we've explained all that, so based on all this information, at what price do you think we should enter the market? What you're hoping is they come back with a reasonable, logical answer. But what if they don't? What if they come back pricing in the range of the expireds or even the actives? Here we go. After looking at the research we've covered together, would you share with me why or how you arrive at that price? So you're not arguing with them, you're asking them to justify and defend their price. Listen to their response and ask appropriate follow-up questions if needed. We could take that approach, you're going to say. However, in doing so, your number one need, and in the listing conversion class, remember we asked them to identify what would make this a 10, what would make it a 10 plus, what would make it a 10 plus plus. Then we had them reorient that to their number one, number two, and number three priorities in the transaction. So if presuming that pricing or net from the transaction is their number one need, we could take that approach. However, in doing so, you're not going to net what you need out of the transaction. If we overprice, we are inviting negotiation. It's going to drive the price down below market value, and you're not going to net what you need out of the transaction. Okay? Is that going to be acceptable to you? To justify your point, re-examine one or all of the pricing tools, again, the expireds, the actives, the solds, while saying what we must remember is that the pricing game is all about justification. We need to be able to justify and defend our list price. Allowing sellers to self-discover using the 7-step pricing strategy virtually eliminates the above objection. Okay, if you have properly educated them, consulted them in the pricing dialogue, this shouldn't come up, or it should be very rare. If sellers want to price over fair market value, they are mistakenly using their needs or wants as justification, right? And how much does the market care about their needs or wants? The market doesn't care, sadly. Okay? So page 9. Pricing homes is neighborhood specific. Y'all have been in my classes, have heard me say that over and over. We don't do radius searches when pulling comps. We don't do zip code searches. We do neighborhood searches. We get down to that little housing ecosystem, because that's really, doesn't matter what's on the next block in a different neighborhood. It's in that neighborhood, okay? So the seller, let's presume they want to unrealistically set or use a benchmark price. A benchmark price is the highest price, typically on a per square foot basis, ever sold in the neighborhood. Well, they got $125 per square foot. Doggone it, I want $125 a square foot. But you know, based upon the tangible evidence you've presented, they're really at $115, okay, based upon the comps. So how do you respond to that? Per my research, the only thing your home has in common with the benchmark home is, well, you do have granite, yep, and you do have 42-inch cabinets. But that's really where the similarities end. And then you start describing, as you can see, these homes, the benchmark homes, possess these amenities, or they're in this condition. They're on the lake. They have the oversized lots. They have the outdoor kitchens. That's why they're able to command benchmark prices. Now, let's say the seller believes the home is worth more because of a specific amenity. Let's say they just took out the corian and put in granite. Per my research, this is you speaking, that amenity is fairly common in this neighborhood and alone does not justify more value. In fact, what you've done in upgrading to granite is bring your house up to neighborhood standard. Without that, you would be commanding less than other homes in the neighborhood. That's just brought you up to standard, but it hasn't elevated you to benchmark pricing levels. Okay? What if the seller wants to list above the competition? Okay, they want to kind of set the leading edge for pricing in the neighborhood. Here's your response. We can list high, however, that will put us at the high end of the range, the high end of the actives. At the high end of the range, we can expect to remain active for so many months. Look at average days on market. Look at your sold comps and see those that were priced higher, how much longer did they take? Or look at the actives. That's really where you see it. Some of these homes, you know, the average days on market will be 24 days and some of them will be on the market 120 days. And you can see the pricing correlation. So you explain that to them. Per your timing need, which you said was what's going to make this transaction a 10 plus, you said you need to be out of here in 60 days. Pricing at that level is going to make that goal impossible. Are you going to be okay with that? Okay? So far, so good? Can you see yourself using these dialogues? Have you ever been in situations where you've heard these objections? Yeah, I'm in it now in my neighborhood because values have been rising, and what happens in a rising market is that sellers get greedy and they try to get out ahead of it. So they think, yeah, I see everybody's getting 120, but 6 months ago they were only getting 115. I want to go to 125, or hey, maybe we can get 130 because we're in the spring, the hot selling season. So they get way beyond all justification. That's where this dialogue can come in very handy. Okay? People have lived before us. That's one of our key beliefs. That means we can learn from the experiences of others. What if the seller wants to disregard the competition? I don't care what other people are asking for their house. I know what my house, I built this house with my own hands, or at least that little shed in the backyard. Okay? It's pretty special. I even ran electricity out there. Okay? This is you talking. We can do that. But looking at our competition, there appears to be months of inventory available. You've calculated absorption rates to be able to say that. Shouldn't we position ourselves to sell within your desired time frame? Per the active summary support pages, these homes seem to have the same features and amenities as yours. These are actual true comps. Why would a buyer pay more for your home when they can buy a comparable home for less? Help me understand that. How do you justify that? So don't be arrogant, but be very curious. What if a previous agent told them, It was the wrong time of year to sell their home. Okay? Homes don't sell in the fall. Per my research, homes sell throughout the year. I've said this so many times. There are dozens of homes that close every single day in Houston, every month of the year. Okay? As you can see, homes priced appropriately sell throughout the year. It is true there's some seasonality in the market, but we adjust for seasonality with pricing. And if a home is priced and exposed properly, it will sell any season of the year, any day of the year. What if they want to start high? And I know you've all had this conversation. Okay, Frank, I hear you. I know we need to be here, but can't we just test it a little bit? Let's just see. Maybe somebody will offer it to us, okay? Here's our response. We can price the home high. That's an option, absolutely. However, before making that decision, let's take a look at the people who've tried that approach in this neighborhood and see if there were any negative consequences. And there you can look at the price reductions that have been taken on the comps and see where they ended up selling at, and typically that you will see that they sold below market because of the momentum in the price reductions. Okay? The buyers got greedy. No, I shouldn't say that. The buyers sensed that the seller was in trouble because they start taking price reductions and then they start throwing in lowball offers. And you end up agreeing somewhere below what you would have gotten had you come in at market value. Okay?
Excuse me, Ms. Frank.
Yes.
When you have this kind of case, you need to be prepared with those comps,
Tangible tools, yes.
but you already need to know that with your
That's right.
place. Have it just in case.
Don't go in guessing.
Not going online with them right then, spend the time.
In the listing conversion class, we taught the conversation that takes place before we get here. Around the table, you've already gone through the solds, the actives, and the expireds, so they've been fully informed at this point. You've already showed them the information. Okay? All right, we're on page 11. Now, what if they're just super